Hey guys, today we are going to be making some spiced meatballs with a fresh cucumber and cabbage salad. So I'm using 1 pound of ground veal for this recipe, but ground beef or ground lamb will work well. I'm also going to be using some mint, cilantro, dill, cabbage, scallions, nice fresh garlic, some apricot jam, which is optional. If you don't have it, that's okay. I'm using panko breadcrumbs, but any breadcrumbs will work. 1 egg. You want to use 1 egg per pound of meat you're using, so the batch is easy to scale up. For the dry spices, I'm going to be using paprika, coriander, ginger powder, cumin, and some harissa powder, which I happen to have on hand. So first we're going to measure out our dry spices. So I'm using about a teaspoon of everything. So 1 teaspoon of ginger powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, for the harissa, I'm going to go with 2 generous teaspoons. I just am really a big fan of the flavor of it. And then I'm using a little bit of allspice for this. I'm just going to use a 1/4 teaspoon because it is a very powerful flavor. Just give them a little stir with your fingers to combine the spices. Then we're going to add our meat on top. I'm going to go ahead and crack my egg. This one happened to have 2 yolks in it, so lucky for me. Next, we'll combine our panko breadcrumbs. I'm using a 1/2 cup. Dump that on top of the meat. Next, I'm just going to do a pinch of salt, probably about 1.5 teaspoons, and about 2 teaspoons of black pepper. I like to just measure into the palm of my hand. I'm also going to add chopped scallion. So this recipe is very versatile. You can add in any fresh herbs you have. Parsley would be really good. I happen to have scallion, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to smash and chop 2 fresh garlic cloves and add that to the mixture as well. The fresh garlic will really make it pop. I'm also going to add in some mince that I have, which I will also use in our salad later. Just the stems of the cilantro, so I can use the tops for the salad. I'm going to add the stems right in there. And then I'm going to add a cabbage leaf. The cabbage will add a little bit of texture and moisture to the mixture. So just cut the rib out of the cabbage leaf, and then I like to roll it up and then slice it and then just chop it in the other direction. It's just a really quick way to rough chop. Then we're going to hand mix everything together because you don't want it to be too emulsified. Just kind of gently mix it with your hand until everything's incorporated. The more you mix it, the chewier your meatballs will be. Then this is the optional part. You can add about a 1/2 cup of apricot preserves for a little bit of sweetness, but you don't have to. I just want to show you can keep the chunks of the herbs and the cabbage pretty big, and it'll just add some texture and some juiciness to your meatballs. Set that aside, and we're going to let it marinate. For the cucumber salad, I like to cut my cucumbers in half and scoop out the seeds. The seeds just kind of add too much moisture for me. So then once your seeds are removed, slice your cucumber as thin as you like. I like mine about 1/4 inch thick. Add them to your bowl. Then I am using 1 fresh spring onion. I just cut it in half and peel the kind of leathery outside off. Then I'm going to slice these as thin as possible. If you like thicker onion, go ahead and cut it thicker. But I'm going to do mine nice and thin and add them to the cabbage, toss it together a little bit. Add about a teaspoon of salt. That'll start breaking down the onion and the cucumber. and it'll sweeten the onion up. And I'm only actually going to use 2 leaves of cabbage. I like to just use my cabbage leaf by leaf instead of cutting into it, and then you have to worry about it getting dried out. So if you take the ribs out of the cabbage and then stack the leaves, that's really easy to chop it into bite-sized pieces. Add that to your bowl with your cucumbers and onions. Give everything a nice little toss together. And then I like to chop up my fresh herbs next. So just rough chop the cilantro leaves, add it to your bowl. Next, rough chop some dill, if you have it, add it to the bowl. You could also at this point add parsley if you have it, or any herbs really. And then I like to stir it with the tongs because the dill tends to stick to my fingers a lot. Next, we're gonna season it. So this salad is really simple, just like a simple seasoning of rice wine vinegar, sugar, and salt. That's really all it needs. And when you massage it into the cabbage, it kind of starts to break down and it makes like its own dressing basically. We'll set our salad to the side, form our meatballs, and then once they're formed, we'll start searing them. So I ended up making mine about golf ball size, and then get them in a pan with a little bit of oil or butter, medium heat, and we're going to cook them for about 4 minutes on one side until it's nice and golden brown. And then you're just going to flip them over, and these meatballs you can do all in this same pan. I'm going to add in a beef stock, just enough to go halfway up the meatballs. That'll be enough to steam them and reduce, and in about 10 minutes all the broth will be gone and your meatballs will be fully cooked. While the meatballs are cooking, let's make our tahini sauce. So tahini is a paste made out of ground sesame seeds. We're going to use about 1/2 cup of it, and then to that let's add 1/2 cup of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons about of garlic powder. And then for tahini, it's very firm. It'll start to loosen up, but you have to kind of work it for a little while with a spoon, and you'll see it start to get slowly creamier. And then the trick is to keep slowly adding a little bit of cold water bit by bit. And it's a labor of love. You really have to spend a little bit of time working it out. But once it reaches a nice creamy consistency, switch to a whisk where you can really work it for a few minutes and really finish getting it to the creamy consistency you want. You'll end up needing probably about 1 cup of water throughout the whole process, but add it in small amounts till it's nice and creamy. Check the seasoning, and it's just a really simple way to get a lot of flavor out of a sauce. And by the time your tahini is done whisking, about 10 minutes, your meatballs are done. So let's go ahead and plate it all up. I like to put my cabbage salad on the bottom of the plate and put the meatballs on top. And then you'll take your freshly made tahini sauce and drizzle it all over the meatballs, so you're flavoring both the meatballs and the salad. And then you can just eat it as is, or you can eat it with some pita. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you.